What's up everybody, BigSweetC here with you. Got a special little video for you today. Today we are talking about The Last of Us 2, and I do understand that for a game that I seem to have so many problems with, I do tend to talk about it a lot. And if you haven't seen it yet, we are going to, against my better judgment, we are going to stream the game here on YouTube. And depending on what you guys choose will be the type of game mode that we play. But what I want to talk about in this particular video is what I would have done, which I would think would make the game better in terms of how they could have done the story. So we all know that my biggest qualm with the story is that it's terrible. It forces you to play as one person that you love, kills that all those people that you love, then forces you to play as the person that killed those people that you love, to try and force you to love that person that you hate because they killed the person that you love, right? So, right off the bat, the story it's just too elitist, it's too pretentious, you know, it's trying to say too much, it's trying to say, hey, yeah, we might love these people and we think they did the right thing, but you gotta look at the other side. They might not have done the right thing because they don't think they did the right thing. Freedom fighters are another person's rebellion or whatever, you know, whatever they call it. So they're trying to do too much. You know, they want you to believe that just because you feel a certain way about a person's actions doesn't necessarily mean that everybody feels that same way about said person's actions. They're also trying to say that just because you dislike people now doesn't necessarily mean that you can't empathize with them for the reasons that you hate them. And while on the surface, that totally makes sense, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of what we need more of in this world. Right now, we've got this, especially in America, we've got this two-party system, right? And it's a two-party system in all aspects of everything. You're either with us or you're against us. You either like this or you dislike this. You're either for this or against this. And what they're trying to say here is that no, hey, life is more gray than that. There's a mixture, a blend of the two, if you will. And while I have no problem with that on the surface, my big problem is the way they did it lacks balls. There's no courage in what they were doing. They're trying to be pretentious, but they're also trying to sell magazines. What I mean by that is, like, they have this story where you're supposed to empathize with the person that you hate, but you keep going back to being the people that you really, really love. And they do that for a very specific reason, because they feel like if you don't get to play as the people that you really love, you're not going to buy their game. And instead of actually sticking up for what they believe in and telling a story that they actually intend to tell, they chalk it up to selling out, and they give you a half-ass attempt at bullshit so they can guarantee that they still make money. So that's my biggest thing. They don't go balls deep. They put just the tip in, and they hope you're satisfied with it. Like, they don't lack funds, they lack the courage. They don't lack talent, they lack the fortitude to actually do something that is risky, that is different, that might actually be outside of the cultural norm. They don't do that because they still want to sell you copies of this game, but they want to tell you that they're trying to tell you this story. And that is the elitist, pretentious bullshit that they put out there. This is the turd that I am trying to enlighten you guys with. But there is brilliance in this game. There is brilliance in the story. The slaves, the enslavers, the seraphites, the fireflies that become wolves and seraphites, that clash of what happened after the events of The Last of Us 1 and before the events of The Last of Us 2. There is genuine beauty there and greatness to be told, but instead of going for it, going balls deep, they decided to half-ass it, and they gave you a fucking turd. So, I don't want to keep bringing this up because, again, I do generally enjoy the gameplay of it, and I hope they come out with some sort of multiplayer aspect of it, so that way I can play the game without actually having to go through the painstaking process that is the story. But I digress. This is about what I would have done, so no more complaining on my part. You know, this is I keep talking about how we have terrible writers. So I'm going to give you what I would have done. Now, keep in mind, this does, the way I'm going to explain this does take into account that you know the story, that you have played the game. If you haven't played the game, you're probably not really going to understand what I'm saying, but feel free to listen anyway. So I'm gonna assume that you know the story as I go through this kind of what I would have changed, because what you have is you have one fun story, you know, the Joel and Ellie stuff that everybody loves because they love those characters. And then they have what Naughty Dog was trying to say with the Abby crap. And they couldn't make the two blend together like peanut butter and jelly. It was more like water and oil. And so I would have stuck with what they said, because like I said, the world, the environment they have created is actually really fascinating to me. And I'm going to go off of a previous interview of Neil Druckmann's where he talks about an alternative idea they had for the opening of the game that they decided not to go with. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to assume you know what the actual opening is. But the alternative opening was you were just going to begin the game playing as Abby. And you were going to be Abby, you were going to get saved by Joel and Tommy, and you were going to be you and Mel and Owen and the other 3 or 4 people or whatever that are in their group were going to be rescued by Joel and Tommy and brought into Jackson because they don't really know that it's Joel. Right? They don't really know that it's him. So they're going to be brought into Jackson with the whole intent to find out if this is actually Joel Miller, the Joel Miller that they're looking for, and then go after him. So that was the original idea that they decided not to go with. I actually think this is a much better opening than the original, where you actually start as Ellie and you have this kind of weird morning after kind of, you know, high school drama opening where you find out Ellie's had a weird 4 years, even though she doesn't remember anything from the previous game. Meaning the end of the event, not the whole game. But you just kind of have this like high school drama thing, which I think is supposed to meant to make you feel, okay, this is going to be a Joel and Ellie game. And it does it a disservice because it's not really a Joel and Ellie game. It's more of an Ellie and an Abby game, but you don't know who Abby is. So Abby should have definitely been in way earlier than she was. So you're not expecting it to be a Joel and Ellie game. Now, the reason I bring this up as a problem is because originally during one of the trailers, it was Joel in Jesse's place who goes along with Ellie and not Jesse. Now, they changed it, obviously, because they didn't want to give away Jesse's character in that trailer. But looking back at it now, and then how they ended up beginning the game, this is a total mislead to make you think that this is something that it's not. Like, this is that false flag advertising that I keep telling you guys about. They did that on purpose because they don't have the guts to put out something that they think is original and might test, might push, might disrupt the industry. They don't have the balls to do it. So I digress. We go back to this beginning where Abby and her gang join Jackson. Now, instead of Ellie and Dina having a relationship, now you can have Abby and Ellie have a relationship. What do we know about Abby? Abby lost her father. What do we know about Ellie? Ellie lost her father. What do we know about Abby? She had to grow up in this kind of environment where she doesn't really know what's going on. She's got all these doctors, but there's all this military. Then her dad dies, and the Fireflies break off into these militaristic tyrants or these religious cult fanatics. You know, so you have a dynamic that would bring these two together. They would bring these two together. You still have your lesbian romance story that for whatever reason you have to have in the game. And then there's no reason for Dina's character. Because let's be honest, there's no reason for Dina's character. She's a MacGuffin the whole time. She pushes Ellie and encourages Ellie to do this, and then the one time she actually has an opportunity at the end of the game to make an impact, become a thing, become a pillar, a reason the game exists, Ellie totally negates everything she says and completely just in her face. You know what I mean? The whole time, she's encouraging Ellie to do whatever she wants, and then the one time she asks Ellie to do her a favor, Ellie's just like, nah. So what's the fucking point of Dina? There is no point in her character. Now you have Abby and Ellie building this relationship. You still get that relationship bonding that you want in the game, but you also keep it into this to the characters that actually matter. Then on top of that, what do you think about, how do you think this is going to affect Ellie when Abby does go on to then find out that it is the Joel Miller that they're looking for and decides to kill him? Now it's not a random stranger that killed Joel. It's not a random person that Ellie doesn't know that killed Joel. It is Ellie's possible love interest. How much bigger of an impact would that have had? How much bigger? Like, just imagine. Okay, so imagine you're at prom, and you see your best friend with the girl that you have a crush on, right? Like that kind of betrayal, if you will. That's much bigger than a random person killing your best friend. So right there, already, in my opinion, infinitely more substance to the game. Now, while they're there, before this all happens, you've got Ellie and Abby making their relationship. But as they come to know Joel Miller and Tommy Miller and the people of Jackson, Owen and Mel start finding peace. They're just leftovers from the wolves, from the Fireflies. They're just leftovers, you know. Yes, Owen had a relationship with Abby back in the day, but Owen's clearly over that already. It wasn't Owen's father that was killed. It wasn't Mel's father that was killed. So Owen and Mel, we know they're pregnant. We don't know that Mel's pregnant at the time, but we can find out later. So Owen and Mel start finding peace with Joel and everybody in the village. And instead of plotting murder, bloody murder, they decide, you know what, we're just gonna go to Santa Barbara because the Fireflies, they might be out there, right? This was Owen's whole thing in the first place. This was his character. His character was the sympathetic one. He was the one that started to go, hey, you know what? Maybe we're letting this cloud our judgment, and this shouldn't be who we are anymore. I'm starting to feel like I'm not Owen anymore. Why don't we instead give it a rest, peace out to Santa Barbara, we'll start our lives over. So they go do that. In a fit of rage, Abby angrily kills Joel, knowing that it's him, and pieces out. Meanwhile, we find Ellie finds out Joel is dead. However, it comes out that it was Abby. Maybe Abby, you know, leaves something that of hers that Ellie knows. You know, again, I'm not going into the finer details, but an overall story. So that puts Ellie on the path of wanton destruction. Now, you don't play as her, though. You don't play as her. You want to make Ellie the bad guy? Make Ellie the bad guy. Don't make her a good guy now and a bad guy now and a good guy then and a bad guy then. Don't pussyfoot around. Show some fucking balls. You want to make her a bad guy? Make her a fucking bad guy. Now she's the bad guy. She's out for revenge. Meanwhile, Abby has to flee because she just murdered Joel, so she knows the whole town of Jackson is going to be on her. She decides, hey, I'm going to go meet up with Owen and Mel. On the way to meet Owen and Mel at the aquarium that we already know because it's in the story, that's when she comes across Yev and Yara and Lev. You can have that whole thing play out. The idea of Lev being a transgender and it being a sin against God in the Seraphites manner. That's real life. Like that is a legitimate good story to tell. You could have that right now as she's on her way to go meet Owen and Mel and she helps out Lev and Yara. You already have that established in the story. You could easily do it in this version. They get to the aquarium. That's when they notice. That's when they find Owen and Mel dead at the hands of Ellie. Ellie is still the bad guy.
That all of them?
We already know that she decides to leave the map there for whatever reason, so that map can be still left there. There's now a better reason for it to be there other than to just continue the story so you can play as Abby to go after Ellie for the third or fourth time or however many times you flip-flop because they don't have the courage to just make one person a person. So you got this. Now you are going after Ellie. And what happens? You run into the slavers. And instead of showing, instead of it being an adventure, now you're trying to free yourself from the slavers. To the point to where you get thrown into the stocks.
Coming.
And that's when you have Ellie come up. And instead of duking it out like you guys do, she just unties you and you make peace and the game's over like it ends. But in this aspect, the reason that this is better than the alternative is because it actually says something. It puts you in an awkward position and puts you through it. It doesn't give you some sort of vacation from this out-of-body experience so you are comfortable enough to continue playing. This is, hey, we're trying to legitimately take a risk and do something different, and we don't give a shit whether you like it or not because we're telling a story. Not, hey, we hope you like this, so we're gonna give you some bird feed of stuff that you like, and then we're gonna give you some bird feed of stuff that you might hate, and hope that you understand that the stuff you hate was really supposed to be enlightening. But you enjoyed the stuff that you enjoyed enough to get over the fact that you hated the rest of it. No, man. You got two different games here. You want to tell two different stories. Tell two different stories. But have them be coherent. Abby betraying Ellie is better than Ellie not listening to Dina at the end of the story. There's no character arc there. There's no dynamic.
Thanks.
That's gutless. That's gutless writing.
Let's figure out how to get in there.
So I don't know if you guys were able to follow me. I think this would been much better. Substitute Dina's character. You don't need Jesse. Jesse is an unnecessary character as well. Dina. And you don't need to have this story of, well, I like her, she needs her revenge. Well, I don't like her, she doesn't need her revenge, but I have to play it. You just have these people that maybe you hate Abby and you don't want to play as Abby. But you know what? You have to play as Abby because it's Abby's story. It's not a mix of Abby and comparing it to Ellie so you understand why Abby is the way Abby is. No, that's fucking bullshit, man. That is a pussy way out of things. Take the sand out of your vagina and grow the fuck up. But this is why they don't pay me thousands of dollars to write these stories. Because I have the balls to try something different. I'm not gonna pussyfoot around and give you halvesies. I'm not gonna play just the tip. I'm gonna give you all or nothing. I'm gonna go 100%, and I'm gonna tell you that, hey, I tried something. I gave it my best shot. You didn't like it, and move the fuck on. I'm not gonna make excuses on a shit for idea. Let me know what you guys think. I generally think this would be a good idea. I'm curious what you guys think, that, you know, instead Abby and Ellie have this relationship instead of Dina, that they were friends and you only play as Abby. Because I generally think they should be two different stories. You can still have Ellie in it, you know, but if you're going to make Ellie the bad guy, make Ellie the bad guy. Don't every so often throw us a bone because you're worried that we might not like your supposed piece of avant-garde art. That's what you tell me. You tell me you don't have the courage to try something different. You tell me that you're more worried about people liking your stuff than actually having the balls to tell a story that you want to tell. The gutless wonders that Naughty Dog are. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, if you did happen to like it, please let me know by hitting that thumbs up, hitting that like button, hitting that sub button, hitting that little notification bell next to it so you know when I do drop another video, or perhaps when I do go live. Either way, that's going to do it for this one. BigSweetC, that's me. Wishing YouTube, that's you. Wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon, evening. Whatever time of day it might be. Long as you're watching, I'm wishing you a wonderful watching time. Sweetness, signing off. Peace.